how a practicing dentist becomes a tech co-founder of a digital product company.
So after doing like 10 years of clinical dentistry, I started my own startup, my first startup, which was really a chain of dental centers. Then I started to see people are sending me images on WhatsApp and text. How is this even possible? So I started to do some research.
Dental has been slightly laggard and behind other industries, and just wanted to know what you think and what your observation has been.
So I read a report that even today, like practice management software, there's not like 100%, even in the US. Uh, I think I think still 10-15% don't use any practice management software.
Hi, guys. Welcome to another new episode of the Digital Dentistry Deep Dive, or the 4D podcast. Today's episode, we have with us very special guest. We have Dr. Manoj Rajan, who is the CEO and co-founder of Toothlens. Toothlens is a tech startup which is also in the remote monitoring side of dentistry. A colleague in the same industry as Smile Genius, and a very special friend as well. Uh, Dr. Manoj shuttles between US and India. That's where his most of the clients are based. We spoke a lot about the role of remote monitoring in dentistry and the slow adoption of tech in general in dentistry, and why dentistry was behind other in other industries when it comes to digital enablement and digital advancements. We spoke about the role of experience for the patients and how we should treat them as consumers who want the similar experiences as they are getting from retail and from other apps that are out there. So I think it's a really interesting episode, really good take from a dentist who became a tech entrepreneur, and a really good take into outside of the box thinking for the dentists who are sitting on the edge or on the fence when it comes to thinking about having a digital strategy for their clinics and for their patients, or having a kind of a digital tools that they can use for their day-to-day operations. So really important episode for these guys who want to learn more about what's out there and why we should be delivering on those digital tools. So sit tight, enjoy the show, and please don't forget to subscribe to the 4D podcast. Thank you. Hi, Dr. Manoj. So, welcome to the Digital Dentistry Deep Dive podcast, where we talk about digital dentistry and how that is shaping up the industry in general. So, welcome to the episode.
Hey Nipun, great to be here.
Dr. Manoj, walk us through the journey of Toothlens. And I'm curious, I know that we have spoken quite a few times before as well, in terms of how a practicing dentist becomes a tech co-founder of a digital product company. I'm very curious personally as well, and I think anyone who's listening would be curious to know that how dentists transition into this tech.
I think it's a great question, actually. So I've been very fascinated, even as a kid, regarding technology and really what it can do. But I think somewhere down the line, um, you kind of get into whatever fields. So I got excited about smile design, and when I was in college, and the kind of impact that really smile, changing a smile can do uh, for people. So I went into clinical dentistry, did that for about 10 years. But even during my journey of clinical dentistry, I was really able to see that either you're working with software products or you're working with materials. So there's a whole lot of technology, whole lot of products that really you're using to actually do even clinical care. So after doing like 10 years of clinical dentistry, I started my own startup, my first startup, which was really a chain of dental centers. And then, so that was more like a business side of things. Again, you understand value uh, of management systems, records when you can do that. So I ran that for 7 years. And then it was really during COVID, really when none of the clinics were working and nothing much was happening, where really started to think. So I've been like a lot entrepreneurial, thinking what we can do to make lives better. So I got together with a few of my friends who are techies, and luckily they are my co-founders now. And we started to kind of speak to different stakeholders like insurance companies, and benefits, and so what is their need like during COVID actually, because we also started to see that some of them were actually sending me some images saying that, can you see the images and see what's the problem. Then I started to see people are sending me images on WhatsApp and text. How is this even possible? So we started to do some research. I had a friend who actually sent me something similar that they were doing like in dermatology, and saying, can you look at this, is this even possible like in dentistry? So that's how it started. I mean, obviously got into it in a very naive way, not really understanding the depth of AI or computer vision or even the time that it would take to do some of these things. But hey, we just felt that there's something good, this is what people need. And so that's how we kind of started this, with the belief that yes, AI models can be trained to analyze dental problems, and that could be useful at scale to achieve positive oral health outcomes. Um, that was with the vision. And then I got together with a friend. I mean, he's doing his PhD in computer vision in Germany, and super energetic guy. So I said, hey, are you interested in the world's first algorithm that can identify a whole range of dental problems, and really with a certain level of accuracy. And so so what he said, yeah, we can do this maybe in a couple of months, but took us a year and a half actually to to get to some scale. So yeah, that's how it started. And I think now the team, we have a CTO who's also excited about data and analytics, uh, and we also have a co-founder now, recently joined us in the US as head of commercials, who's looking at specifically applying this in the insurance benefit space in the US. Yeah, so yeah, from where we started off, even we joke, we say, my God, where we started, what we thought about, it's been an amazing journey actually.
Yeah, and I think that when I think personally as well, you always, I think, underestimate the amount of time and effort that will be needed. And it's kind of, and I think that's where the passion, because if you look at, let's say it'll take 2 years, 3 years to, get to a certain level, you wouldn't start at all, right? Because you have
Exactly.
to underestimate that thing. Otherwise, you wouldn't
Exactly.
even take the first step, right?
Exactly. So I remember speaking to Deep, my co-founder, now, and said, "Hey, can you build this algorithm?" And I think he kind of, so he started off like, as a freelance. I said, how much would it take to build this? So he said, I think I can do it for about 500. And 3 4 months down the line, I mean, didn't pay him the $500 to. And I said, "Are you really sure? I mean, that you really want this $500?" He said, "Let's just keep moving ahead. It looks like we're on to something super interesting, and it's going to take far more than a couple of months than I thought." But yeah, I mean, it's a lot of nudging one another. It's a lot of exactly like what you said. If you really forecast, if you're able to have that kind of vision, I mean, exactly the time you'd never start. So, so too much uh, intelligence sometimes is can be a problem. We were a little naive in thinking that. I mean, I had no clue of what it would take with the AI models and time. And somebody told me that it's like it's like teaching um, a kid, right? It's like how you train a model is like actually how a kid learns.
Yeah.
So it's that basic, but didn't realize like it's not even like a kid. It's like probably like it's a
A
kid for
newborn.
many years. Yeah, it's yeah,
Yeah.
really. So uh, it's you got to like really put a lot of efforts. I I remember annotating the first set of nearly about 10,000 images myself. It took me 3 months just because we had to be really sure that it's my brains getting into it and the clinical expertise that I had and what I thought were, and is not somebody else who is. And then after I did that once, they ran the models, and they saw they were, because my annotations were not good. What In a way that the software needed it. I did that 3 times over. So this is like really crazy. You and there are no models available, like raw models or open source models that you can just take these data and run it, and it doesn't work that way. It's a lot of hard work, but yeah, it's a challenge, and we seem to be liking challenges if the impact is large. Yeah, so that's why we're doing this.
And I think we are touching on that aspect of, I think AI is obviously the, we all talk about AI, but even if you look at the general adoption of technology within dentistry, like what I've seen is, with my limited experience in dentistry, is that the adoption is far lower than what we see in other industries. And specifically, like, if even if you talk about medtech, right, in US, you will see a lot of startups. There's a lot of funding, there's a lot of startups, there are a lot of other companies who are conglomerates and have divisions focusing purely on medtech. But the dental has been slightly laggard and behind other industries. And just wanted to know what you think and what your observation has been. And I think you have, just as a context for everyone, it's kind of, you're looking at from two different markets as well. So yes, there is a Western side of the market, but you also have an experience in the Asian side of markets as well. So yeah, what are your thoughts, Dr. Manoj?
Yeah, I think for a long time it's been dentistry has been like product and instruments and touching that kind of stuff. So innovations have come mostly in product development, which have been material science, metallurgy, that kind of stuff that actually was in maybe in medical science, in surgery, or in veterinary sciences, and then got adapted to dental. So that's how how the progression has been happening. I think it's just a progression thing. Somehow it comes last to dentistry. So it's so the first innovations obviously happens like in heavy engineering. That's where most of the stuff happens, and then I've seen that it comes to medical. Then it comes medical slash vet, and then they got to miniaturize that, or they got to innovate on that for dental. That's how it happens. So we're kind of used to most of the innovations happening like in Europe and in the US. That's where most of the stuff have happened, and then they kind of uh, use it in Asia as buyers. That's how it's been like from the time I can remember. What I've read, I think it's like maybe over 100 years, right? Uh, I mean, from innovation, I have not seen much really happening in the Asian context. Um, but with software and applications playing a major role, that's changed all that a lot actually, not a little. Because what happens that because we have those capabilities like in Asia, and also the doing metallurgical research and material research is kind of difficult. Is hit at stalemate, and it's there's nothing much new that you can do, and doing something new takes a lot more money and effort. And so that's where software comes in. And again, people have been building software. Again, all the innovations came in out of US and Europe, uh, where they have been building practice management software and those kind of software applications, analytics applications that help dental. So I read a report that even today, like practice management software, there's not like 100% even in the US. Uh, I think I think still, 10-15% don't use any practice management software. At least 15-20% don't use digital x-rays. Yeah, so yeah, it's so we can say, like, even digital x-rays, there's like a 15% market to be captured. So it's like that. I think some of it is is also related to, like, regulatory stuff. So you know um, in medical, if you want to do like a medical dental kind of thing, in medical you can't do certain procedures without
Without an X-ray.
having
Yeah.
that. And also regulation. Whereas in dental, yeah, I mean, you can get away. And of course, in Asia, I guess, maybe it'll be the other way around. I think digital x-rays would more likely be like 20-30% and 70% still. And then the value of it, like practice management systems, analytic systems, um, I think, all that is improving, coming up. But it's really not at the scale of adoption. Also, because I feel that the way how dental offices are structured, they're not large centers. Most of it are highly fragmented.
Yeah.
So just about, I think all the DSOs put together in the US would probably be about maybe 20,000, 25,000 dental offices. Uh, but about 130,000 would actually be solo practitioners. So that's been the problem. I see definitely a lot of uh, changes, improvements, especially from an AI perspective, because that's going to change all that. Um, but do I see, what do I see the dentist looking at it? Yeah, they're still trying to learn and see how it can really benefit. I think there's a lot of technologies that are coming to help clinicians too, in terms of X-ray diagnosis. But they're kind of looking at it also like, when I can see something, why do I need an AI telling me?
Yeah.
So they look at it like, with a little bit of suspect. Uh,
Yeah.
but they also feel like if it's a DSO, I heard a dentist who works for a DSO, he was telling me that, these guys want to, analyze my work and check on me using AI. So, so that's these are some of the challenges that are there. But there are a lot of very good useful use cases of these tools.
Yeah.
Early adopters are there, especially some of the tech savvy DSOs um, tend to start off. Um, but still a long way to go. Still really
Yeah.
long way to go. Yeah, it's it's like, when I see, like, even like basic technologies are still lacking.
Lacking.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
And you talked about PMS, so practice management or patient management, whatever anyone wants to call it. But the PMS systems, and I've seen that, if you talk about adoption, right? So then one is the Western markets, one is the, let's say, the Middle East, and then you go to Asia. Let's talk about India, because I think we both have an understanding of the operational landscape in India as well. And what I have seen, and I would love to get your thoughts, is if you take out the compliance side of things, right, that they are mandated to do certain things, have all the consents and everything digitally captured, or at least captured. If you take out the mandate thing, it's what I feel is that it's more relationship based when it comes to the West. Like you're building engagement relationship with your patients, whereas it's much more transactional. When we come towards India, it's more of a one time treatment. And but what I've seen is that Middle East is moving towards more standardized systems and practices. And I need to have your data, so that when you come back again, I need to know where you were last time, so that I can, it's more like a CRM system, right, which is applicable in other industries as well. uh, but is that your observation as well? Like if you talk about just PMS system, right, like if you take out the compliance and the legal side of things, right, why they have these.
Yeah, so I have a different take on this.
Okay.
Uh, so so most practice management systems, why have a system? Um, is Yes, records is one, uh, but they started off in the US, and in Europe, from an insurance perspective. So it was the insurance folks who kind of pushed companies. That innovation happened mostly for insurance compliance. Otherwise, that adoption would also be, see, most of it, if you see how it's designed, it's mostly around insurance, right? It's got codes, it's not user friendly for dentists, most of it.
Yeah.
Nobody bothered about building something for a dentist. They build stuff for for insurance companies. So that's how it started. In India there's no insurance, there's no dental insurance. So why would somebody build something, right? So that's one of the main reasons why there's no. And even when we talk about um, being building engagement with patients, if you see, most of the engagements that I see are typically so I have experience in the US market. uh, it's around the last quarter of the year, uh, because because you're pushing them to come get their cleanings done, right? Because it also expires in January, and then it resets itself. This is all the engagement, that it's a text message and say, hey, it looks like your insurance is expiring, should come get a cleaning done. So other than that, or it's time for your annual checkups or exams, or whatever. Uh, this is also driven by insurance, right? It's there's a study that says that most people who don't have insurance, right, um, visit a dentist probably once in 4 years.
Wow.
Even in the US, this is not Indian numbers, this is US numbers. Yeah. So so it shows, it's very clear, right? It's that it's gone into the consumer mind that if I'm going for my annual checkups, exams paid by the insurance, that's a habit for me. Uh, Otherwise, I'll go when I have a problem. Yeah, very few actually, even in the West, are actually going, as a habit, um, for hygiene and care like that. I mean, uh, it's so so why would somebody build something like that in India or in Asia? So people are building that, yes, for record maintenance, for even if you were to engage. So um, I've seen that happening, like even in the Indian market. Even if you were to engage, there's a very less chance of people actually coming in for as a repeat customer. um, and I've seen this similar thing happening even in the US, where it's out of pocket paid. So that's the whole problem with practice management systems, user friendly, um, from a dental office point of view, but also from the patient. I mean, uh, most dental offices, um, like even large dental groups, don't have even a mobile app
Yeah.
for their patients. So how does one kind of reach out? How does one know who are the dentists? How does one really understand expertise levels of the dentist? Still a lot of on trust
And do they still
and
realize
that's
the need
discovery.
for it, Dr. Manoj? So I'm just thinking that it's a very important topic because, and this is what I've seen is most of the. So my wife is a dentist as well, and I've seen her struggling using a PMS system, which is a lot of them are not even cloud based, right? So if she
Exactly.
has to look at the
Most of it is
appointment, she has to
on-prem.
be in the yeah. So she messages her receptionist or her dental support staff to check when the like what is the first appointment tomorrow. Does it start at 9, 8:30, 9:30? There's lack of visibility. She can't be organized, and then it's not cloud based. Then there are security things which no one, the dental office, doesn't understand. And then it's kind of, even the user interface, it looks like more like Windows 95. You it's and I think you were right that it wasn't built for engagement. It was built for more of operational side of things when it comes to insurance.
Yeah, so this kind of started off like, so people kind of, even today, right? Um, the two companies like on-prem software companies that have more than, like, I think 50-60% of market share, and it's on-prem. They're kind of only, I think, for the last few years trying to convert that into cloud-based solutions. So what has happened because of the on-prem technology solutions? There are companies that built on top of it. Um, so I'll give you examples how that works. So for example, let's look at companies like let's take an example of Dentrix. So Dentrix is a practice management system, but then hey, you have Next Health that manages appointment bookings. That because this is not user friendly, so they built on top of it. Uh, there's a widget that goes on the website where actually appointment bookings happen. So that whole patient appointment booking and all that is bolt on. So there's a lot of bolt on solutions. Telephone. So the telephone data is kind of that's another bolt-on solution of telephone-based AI, which is again bolt-on. Analytics is bolt-on completely.
Yeah.
There are a few analytics companies that pull and push data. So built a whole ecosystem, unbelievable but true, of APIs pulling and writing data into that core engine. Now imagine if you were to deconstruct all that and make it into cloud. And that's the problem today. Right? Most of the system, and personally, I don't feel that it's even possible. Maybe the next 25, 30 years to actually have completely into cloud because so they're kind of looking at it like, okay, that's like a database. So Dentrix, EagleSoft, all of them are like databases, and then you have kind of bolt on and there are companies that are doing cloud PMS systems for core services, but
But
they
those are
have like
mostly the new ones, right? Those are
the new
relatively
ones.
newer than the, yeah, yeah, they started
but
with cloud
but
first kind of.
but but how do you migrate data? It's
Yeah.
all super tough.
It's yeah, yeah, but I think it's
So
it's also the maybe there is no need, like, coming back to the tech adoption side of things. So again, my experience has been like in like previous to dental was in retail, and retail, like, there's so much focus on experience, right? And then there is CRM and there is all these things. So there was a kind of a demand or a pull factor from the users, which were maybe the retail staff or the the customers, to have such services. And it could be because, going back to the point that we are slightly behind in terms of tech adoption. That's why it's kind of people are still comfortable with the poorer experience, which is not cloud based as well. Maybe that's, I don't know, I'm just throwing it out there, but that could be why it's not a top priority to be cloud based.
if you were to ask dentists, like your wife, is it a problem? They would say yes, there's definitely a problem, right? She's facing a problem. But what's the solution? And is that an easy solution? Is not really. That's the problem. It's uh, that products on-prem have like it's a bloody strip. If you want to, if you
Hmm.
want if you want to come out of that, it's super tough. So I know folks who have who made the decision to go to cloud, but it's been like a few months of running in parallel, and I think even like it takes sometimes even a year to kind of
Here is
migrate.
lesser, like I would expect much more for a big
Yeah,
company to
these
go
are
full
smaller
cloud.
practices, but I'm sure if it's like a DSO, it's like so it's crazy. So they tend to think that it's whether it's really possible. I think the best approach of would be like companies like the incumbent leaders, and they're coming up with cloud solutions where they can have quick migration. So I think the first thing is whether whatever people are using is to get to a cloud first, um, and then questions on better cloud and stuff. But being on prem and then having a lot of bolt on solutions is the biggest challenge. That way, India and the other parts of Asia, including the Middle East, started later, and it's like the computer versus mobile kind of so India, uh, and the other parts of the world, non-western world, had started on mobile phones. So their mobile adoption is fairly high. So you find practice management systems actually on that's available on mobile phones, that work on mobile phones in India, uh, Whereas uh, I hear my friends in the US, uh, they talk about, can we have like an appointment booking system at least that I can see on my mobile? I don't need to say anything else. I just want to know what, like exactly like what you said, what are my appointments? So it's also, I think, kind of stages that you're in. If you start, sometimes in technology, looking back is easy to talk about it today, but I think we're too early in the game. Sometimes it's super tough to change as times evolve. To let go of that is very very difficult.
And plus, I think these bigger companies, they have their existing client base, so you can't just transition straight away. Like you have a, you mentioned about the database. Now these are like, I was talking to someone and they were saying, these are like ships, right? And it's very difficult to
Yeah,
steer a ship. But like the smaller companies or the new startups are the boats in the ocean, right? And you can steer them in any way that you want without even thinking of the time and effort, and you can change as many number of times as well. But with the ship, it takes time. It's not visible. Like, it's very slowly, like, half a degree at a time. And, that's where you move towards the destination. So I think that's where also, and plus the change. And I think people, like, they are comfortable. Maybe they are like, they don't want to disrupt the status quo as
I
well.
think that's the most crucial part. That's the most important part. Like to to disrupt the status quo. Is it really valuable? Um, I think still there is an inertia to that. Um,
Yeah.
I've seen dentists being able to. I mean, most dentists are quite innovative, at least in thinking, and uh, they are like entrepreneurial. They want the best for their patients. So I'm sure that in due course they will learn. But there's a lot of education that's really needed because most of the stuff like what's happening is still on the clinical side. Um, in terms of products and material science force and that kind of actual treatment. Let's like if you talk about like treatment, um, but the patients have moved on, exactly like what you said. They're getting exposed to retail, they're getting exposed to and they say, like, this looks like really rudimentary uh, kind of stuff. If you don't have like certain pattern to doing things, like if you get a great experience in what you do in your day-to-day life and you don't see that happening in dentistry, uh, then people feel, hey, and you kind of maybe lose value due to that too, right? It's kind of whoever does that really has an edge.
Yeah.
It's an opportunity too. So I look at it like an opportunity. I'm an eternal optimist, so keep looking at. I think there's an opportunity for newer folks to kind of differentiate themselves in the market. And I'm sure that patients appreciate that because the younger folks definitely,
They want that.
they got used to a certain lifestyle. They don't want to call up a dental practices trying to fix an appointment. I read a report recently, even today, 98% of all appointments are on a telephone call. Right. And we all know about telephone calls and the time it takes and a front office and that kind of conversations and whoever is answering the phone, uh, whatever that experience. So they're just trying to figure out even a simple thing like an appointment fixing in a dental practice. Does it have to be so complex? Um, so
I
so
think
while
that's the
software
first thing, right?
developers,
The
yeah,
first experience. Appointment booking is also your first experience.
exactly.
Like and I'll tell you an example, right? Today I was setting an appointment with my physio, and there's a neighborhood, like in my neighborhood, there's a new physio. So I thought, and I didn't check the complete website with the presumption that they wouldn't have an appointment booking. So I called them up. They gave me an appointment, and they sent me a link as a confirmation, which had like more like a Calendly link, right, with that a change appointment as well. And I was so impressed to even have an opportunity to change my appointment without picking up my phone, calling them, and spending 15 minutes. So I was able to change it within half a second, just clicking the change and finding the calendar. So these are the smaller things which some of the companies are thinking of. I know it's a physio clinic, but same applies to any dental clinic as well. You always have to call a reception and talk to
Yeah, so this
them.
another problems are related to, um, and this is the sense that I get speaking to. It's first is the on-prem software. I mean, how the
Yeah.
software is designed, right? You can't ping multiple times. Sometimes updates happen at the end of the day, so not really happening in real time. uh, Edits. Um, so imagine you're changing an appointment. You got to check. There's a front end system. Maybe it's another software. So you got to check with the main database how it is, and that's not really easy. Uh, and just the way how dental practices function is like. They really don't know how much time they're going to spend on a patient. And it's very average kind of a thing because they really don't know before the patient comes into the practice what they really need. So a consult may take like 15-20 minutes for somebody. If it's a full mouth implant, may take uh, maybe an hour, hour and a half. So how are they scheduling this? um, a surgery may actually get delayed due to whatever reason. A limited number of operatories. Um, Somebody may get like delayed with their appointment. There's so many variables. I know there are another about 15-20 variables. How do you put all these variables to build? So even something like a booking appointment system is tends to get complex because systems are not very standardized. And then there's the way how dentists work. I mean, each dentist may have their own style. Somebody may say, I give equal weightage to all patients. Uh, if they're not keeping up their time, it's on them. Somebody may say, no, our practice is we want to give because we accept new patients, right? We want new appointments, so we give a weightage to new appointments. uh, so there's so many weightages variations that they have. So it gets super complex when you build that out. Especially add a layer of specialists, it gets another layer of complexity. Add another layer of inventory availability for procedures. It gets And then it also can be that patients may say, I've got tooth pain when they come in for a consult. This is an emergency. They may find out that basically it's just something else. It's not even tooth pain, uh, or or it's like it's like a major issue, and you have to. How do you do all this?
There's so
Tech
many
can't solve
variables.
that.
No, I hear you.
Yeah, tech can't solve
Yeah,
that.
it's
Yeah,
so many variables, and because you're saying it now, I think that it's kind of now when I speak to my wife about her appointments, it's kind of the reception staff would put something as 15-20 minutes or half an hour even, which could take her 45 minutes, because she's more of a perfectionist when it comes to aesthetic or cosmetic side of things. And the same thing to someone else could be 25 minutes because they're not a perfectionist, right? And I think that's where it's the personal style, and you need to bake in the extra padding of the appointment time to someone who wants to give that extra time to each patient and make them comfortable and not make it transactional, or let's say a cookie cutter, everyone gets 15 minutes, which is more of a, I think, NHS or the other styles, right? You have only 15 minute slot because you have to see X amount of patients, otherwise the practice wouldn't be profitable. So I think that's where the complexity comes in. Now, that's very true.
yeah. That's another layer, like NHS, and then insurance and all that. That's another layer of complexity. So yeah, you need to figure that out. It's a lot more complex. And then imagine somebody cancels like maybe half an hour before, saying that I have an emergency.
Yeah.
They say, hey, no, we are booked for the next 3 weeks. This is going to go somewhere else, right? It's Yeah. So these are like I was speaking to a pediatric dentist, um, and she was telling me that most parents, when they bring their kids, want actually to bring all the kids at the same time. It's easier for them.
Why is
So
that?
if, well, if you have two boys, I mean, you would rather bring both the boys in the school because of uh, you're anyway going to the practice, and you want both of them at the same time for consults. Um, but most of the time, what happens is that the officers tell them, "Hey, we can get, for one boy, we can get give an appointment, but for the other one, it may take 2 or 3 weeks." Uh, so then, but they don't tell them like, if you want both your boys to come in, I think we have like this slot available,
Yeah.
right?
And
These
change the
kind of
scheduling
things,
as well.
yeah, you can. So again, with people, so this is like, imagine 98% are still calling in.
Yeah.
I completely empathize with front office staff. It's not possible, right? To have so many variables, and then that's why there's some AI coming in to help with this. But even that doesn't really help with what we are talking about.
Mm, yeah. Yeah.
This is far more complex. So in fact, somebody was telling me this, like, if somebody can solve for this, this is like huge. Then the guy just listed out all these variables to me. I say, hey, let's hold on to it for a while and see how.
Because you know the style of that dentist, right? So you know that the other patient kept waiting for 10 more minutes. So just adding that 5 to 7 minutes additional to that particular dentist scheduling would help to plan so they can forecast. But I do see that there's a definite value, and even I empathize with the front office staff. And plus, I think, and again, this could take a totally different episode itself, that it's the pay disparity as well. Like there's so much of skin in the game for the dentist to spend 15 more minutes with the patient, because of, yes, there is, they want to cure them, but there's also a reward piece which we shouldn't ignore. But the front office staff, they are on a fixed salary. They have to attend the calls, they have to book, they have to take notes, they have to take payments from the patient that's walking out as well. So it's the inclination to go extra mile and do these, consider these variables, is may not be there as well.
No, exactly. So that's like they have to come up with kind of I've always felt like a bonus structure,
Yeah.
something interesting for them. But there's also a manpower problem. There's a people problem.
Mm,
That kind of salary range, and it's not interesting anymore.
yeah.
They're not getting incentivized for doing better in most dental clinics. So how do you solve for this? I believe that there is definitely a tech solution. I mean, like they've done it in medical, and you experience the physio
Yeah.
clinic. But then, as long as the dentist, they think that this is the way, it has to be this way, then you're really waiting for a large problem to come up, and then that you say, hey, this is the way. I mean, you're just waiting for a really large problem to happen,
Yeah.
and then kind of you realize that, hey, what you're doing all along was not right.
True. So I think that that's a good segue into the topic of remote monitoring, right? So I think let's go into that, because I think that's, it has some of the efficiencies where we can kind of reduce the workload and make system more operationalized, scalable. So just wanted to get your thoughts on, and I know that from Toothlens side as well, you are into that remote monitoring side of things. So maybe if you want to talk about that, and what's your definition of remote monitoring, and how do you see the RPM, or the remote patient monitoring growing? Has the adoption changed since COVID, before COVID, and after COVID? So we're talking about three kind of phases here: pre, during, and afterwards. And I think during and afterwards would be more interesting. So if you want to start with what you
Yeah,
do
I
at
think
Toothlens as well,
I, I
sorry. Yeah.
think uh, if we just talk about consumer facing
Hmm.
applications, let's do that. Um, there's there's hardly anything before COVID. Did they feel a need for it? No, not really. Um During COVID, obviously, when there was nothing much happening, and this I'm talking about something that can communicate, any application uh, that's sitting on a phone, that patients can actually communicate uh, with dentists or the dental practice. Um, so So during COVID, actually, there was this whole wave. It started off before COVID, but then the adoption was quite bad, which is like video calls. Uh, was a traditional teledentistry phrase, which is actually having video calls with dentists. Um, and this again was started off by insurance companies because
Hmm.
they say, hey, dentists. Uh, by the way, most dentists still don't believe that it's great because they want to see patients. The dentists want to see patients. They want to be clinicians. They want to do video calls, and I completely understand that they want to see patients, and it's not possible to see or video call inside the mouth. What's really going on? It started off because insurance guys kind of said that, hey, if um, uh, you know, emergencies are paid out of medical if you go to the ER in hospitals. So that's a huge cost. That's like running into thousands of dollars per patient. So they want to solve for that, and they said, okay, can we do this video calling with dentists, and then they can get a prescription or something of that sort. So that's how it started. It was pretty all right during COVID. A lot of stuff was actually invested into it. Um, and these were solutions that insurance companies actually had in their apps or in their portal, and you could go and actually talk to a dentist. After COVID, actually, this kind of dropped uh, quite a lot because you know dentists practices opened up. Today is really quite low percentage of people actually using these kind of services in terms of consults. So that's about video calls. What are the other things that they can do? Um, one of the best things that has happened with technology has been a remote patient monitoring of aligners. This has been really the area, and hats off really to dental monitoring. They created the category and they own the category. It's amazing, although they are bucketed as teledentistry still. Yeah. uh, you know that's but it's completely get it, building a category which didn't exist earlier, um, and getting that to a certain level with that's because and my feel is they were able to build that out because there was a demand, right? How do you do monitoring of invisible aligners if patients are not coming into the practice? The whole benefit of invisible aligners is that you don't have to keep coming back to the practice, so you needed something for that. So that's really amazing, and that's really great area, and that's like um, an amazing opportunity in remote patient monitoring. That's really gone on well, and there are other companies who are doing that too. Um, Other than that, I really don't see. It's still all there's something happening in hygiene. Um, there's still stuff happening on smile design, pre and post, like what Invisalign has. Um, so uh, I'm just giving out names so that it's relatable.
Yeah.
And there's very few companies actually having it, right? This is one or two companies. It's
Yeah.
so while there is definite opportunity I see in these areas, I think it will build too, but it's not building really at a rate that I think patients will want. So I'm not seeing anyone like let me give an example. I wonder, like, uh, invisible liners. All the monitoring happens only during the course of treatment.
Correct.
I wonder why we don't have monitoring after the treatment is over. You can monitor for another 10 years, right? Can be a guarantee, like a promise, um, and it can be revenue generating too. I mean, any patient would happily pay for it, because they know that somebody is like watching out. but once we finish, that's it. It's so these are some of the areas, like imagine somebody's undergone a full mouth implant or a full mouth cosmetic treatment. uh, these are some of the situations that, I mean, they're spending a lot of money for it.
Yeah.
They, taking a few images and reaching out, I mean, getting it analyzed, can really go a long way. Instead of them, look at the problem, look at what happens today. Something starts off at small, in a small way, there's a crack, there's something. Or imagine if you talk about aligners, uh, it's like a small kind of, maybe an overlap that has happened due to whatever reasons, or could have been solved very easily. Or this small gum swelling could have been solved very easily, but got delayed, whatever reasons, and dentist has no way of knowing this. The patient feels like, okay, it's going to go off, there's a small problem. And we know dental problems, once it starts, just compounds
Yeah.
year on year, becomes a huge problem. And then it's stress now for the patients. And they really, I mean, depending on the way how the patient reacts to situations, most of them are super stressed about stuff because you're paying a lot of money for it.
Mm.
The more money you pay for something, the more stressed you are, if the outcomes are not for a long time. So this is where I see, I'm really, although I don't believe that is going to happen uh, in the next year or so, uh, but I really see a lot of opportunity in this, because patients do want, like, prescriptions are today mostly like repeat prescriptions, are mostly done online. I mean, they don't want patients to actually, for repeat prescriptions, make a physical visit.
Physical visit, and I think
Uh,
there's a lot of overhead to the physical visit as well, in terms
exactly,
of
exactly.
reception's time, cleaning, maybe they the dentist time, the nurse's time, which is the sunk cost anyways. They can see new patients in that time.
Yeah, it's about 350 dollars an hour,
Wow.
um,
Yeah.
in sunk cost.
Yeah.
So that can be more, I mean, put to better use. But then it's as of today, it's like most of the dentists are kind of thinking that, if I do this, it's going to uh, hurt my procedure practice, treatment, which is really not the case. It's really not the case,
Yeah, let's
right?
go into that, right? So is there, like, if you look at this, I think one is the lack of, like, education or awareness, because it's a new kid on the block, right? Although dental monitoring created this category, and there are a lot of things, but even the simplest, it's simplest of providing a channel to share updates, let's call it that, right? Just a messenger of
Yeah.
sorts, right? It's just a sharing mechanism. Why do you think, like, what are the benefits for the dentist, and why do you think that there is a resistance in adoption of this?
Yeah. So there's no doubt that it's amazing for patients, right? Because it's happening in uh, other areas, maybe like retail or medical. uh, Dentists kind of feel that putting this into a practice situation is super tough, because who would reply to it? Typically, you don't have expertise in replying, so it's already overloaded front offices, and then can they do this? So getting this stuff into a workflow is really difficult. And then quantifying this in terms of revenues and clinical success in the short term is also tough. You cannot, right? So it takes time. We got to believe that, that, like in other um, day-to-day services that we consume, and there are applications, there's support. Let's call it a support in software. The same dentist, by the way, ask us, what's a support mechanism? Do you have 24 by 7 support?
Yeah,
Sometimes,
question.
I'm sure they ask you to.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so sometimes I think that, you should actually, so why not 24 by 7 support for patients? It's the same. They need it more. I mean, so these are, I mean, it's just getting into that workflow actually. And most of them, like when I speak to dentists, they ask, like, um, if they don't, I mean, again, if they don't see like a direct impact, right, into something, workflow, direct clinical solution impact, they generally tend to do it later.
And do you think
Um,
that if you think that the dentists are very much, let's say, they are thinking of something that is short term, not short term, but that you can see, rather than talking about productivity and efficiency, which they cannot, it's not tangible for them at the current moment, then putting a layer of these business owners, or like you have been a part of the DSO as well. So DSOs, do they see long term benefits because they have been, that's their bread and butter, right? Do they see benefits of the productivity and operational, lowering the operational cost on that side?
they do, most of them they do in terms of, but they have a lot of other things to solve for. Uh, the major problems to solve for a DSO, the top two things are hiring and inventory management. So these are two. Patient engagement is not really very high, super high on a priority list, because we all know that patient engagement is not really quantifiable
Yeah,
in the short term. It
it's more
takes
like
time.
marketing, right?
Exactly. It tends to build over time. And again, they're like, um, depends also on the type of practice philosophy. If they're more insurance led, uh, they might not be that concerned if they're, because they're getting patients in through insurance. In a few years, actually, there's a lot of stress on insurance. I mean, practice is actually going away from insurance. Like similarly, in NHS, I think they
Yeah.
had a couple of years. They had, I think it's still happening. There, record number of practices actually moving away from NHS. So that brings a stress on. Then it's out of pocket, and when it's out of pocket, it's like you really need to bring in all these systems. Either ways, I mean, I've been speaking to a lot of patients. Patients are really wanting that, and that's where I feel that those people who are not using some of these will be losing out in the long term.
And what do the patients, so let's break it down for the patients, what are they looking for? So I think one obvious one would be that I don't have to visit a clinic. We talked about, I want to take both my boys to the clinic and do it together, because they have thousands of other things during the day. And then going to a dental clinic, driving, parking, sitting there, waiting, getting the treatment done, and it could be a 5 minute appointment that
Yeah,
everything is
yeah,
good, come back again after 2 months. So is that something that patients are looking for? Like, what are the areas in your
yeah.
experience patients value most in terms of remote monitoring?
So today it's in terms of, these are problems for them. The problems are my doctor. I mean, and the patients also today don't believe that there's a solvable, there's something solvable for this. But these are just patient problems, right? So, like what you said, you go to practice, you have no clue. The dentist doesn't know before itself what is the problem, right? Other than what you said, right? So, if you had said that I think I have some bleeding gums or whatever, that's it. That's what is taken, and your appointment is fixed accordingly. And that's just a guess. So they fix, let's say, 15-20 minutes, and then they found out that there's something else. Then there's X-rays. So there's nothing really happening in the first visit. um, and then you got to fix another. So by the time you undergo some treatment, it's either the second or the third visit. What if you have pain or discomfort? Is that getting taken care of? You see, why can't there be some kind of a communication? I mean, they really don't know how to solve for this, but they say, hey, I believe that it is possible with remote patient monitoring, right? Using digital and a smartphone, I believe that this is definitely possible, right? We keep sharing selfies. Why can't we take
Yeah.
a selfie of our mouth? Right? It's not like a
Yep.
big deal, right? In fact, I have a practice in New Jersey, and the doctor was telling me they see a lot of senior citizen patients, and he was telling me that they say that actually they have a tooth problem, or it's a major problem, but actually it's more like a denture problem. Something is cracked. So so they fix like a 1 hour slot, and then they find out that it's not really like a super emergency, but every patient who calls says it's an emergency, right? That's how. Yeah. So how do you kind of figure out what's an emergency versus a non-emergency? Do I have to see you today? Do I have to see you tomorrow? Do I have to see? I mean, you have a small pit cavity. I mean, you can see after 3 2 3 days, but you may be having really an emergency patient.
Hmm.
But when everybody who calls, the practice says that, hey, I need to be seen quickly. I think I have a major problem. Uh,
Okay.
so that's one area before getting into the practice, where especially for adults as well as for kids, because taking time off for kids is super difficult, right? The added layer of school, and somebody has to bring them and all that. So this is the whole challenge here. um, and then post treatment. So post treatment, like you've done some procedures and you want to know whether it's healing properly, uh, or any gum problems on procedures that you did, or just is the patient cleaning well? That's it. Are they maintaining the hygiene? According to me, like, this can go a really long way
Yep.
in creating that wow factor for the patients. It's simple. It's just take an image, nothing else, right? Mm, and of course appointments, yeah, but appointments is, like I said, is can get a little complex. That's the fear, right? If they fix a time and then they hold you accountable to that time, and then you call them up and say, I think we have a conflict on the time. Can you? They say, hey, then why did you have the technology in the
Yep.
first place, right? So it can get, I mean, if you have a good system, it would still work. But most of the other patient monitoring, what you're just doing is like creating that engagement and letting the patients know that, like, I'm there for you, we're there for you.
Yep.
uh, not just during the course of treatment, but not just during that, annual exam time, possibly when they come in, um, but just, all along that
After
journey.
that as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's retention. People tell me about retention rates, engagement, so many data statistics.
Yeah.
This could solve all of that, uh, but they don't look at it this way. It's
I think it's
still.
that could be a reason why and you've been a dentist and a business owner as well, and you look into stats more so now. Is that something that is like I'm very curious, right? Is that something I know it's not taught in school, but is it's that a different way of looking at things like you talked about? And one point that I want to kind of move this direction to is in terms of the lifetime value of a patient, right? Successful patient, happy patient, more referrals, lower marketing costs from your side, your clinic is always busy, you increase the valuation of your clinic because you have so much of patient database coming in. So there is a lot of long term value of keeping that engagement channel on, and having that interaction channel allows you to get feedback, fix it, and also make sure that your patient is happy for these high ticket treatments. Is that like, but still the dentists are not seeing, is that more of an education thing?
Yeah,
Is
yeah,
it?
it's an education thing. They're not taught to think, I mean, this way. Over the years, it's just, I mean, they've been taught like that patients in the clinic, there are a lot of things under your control. Um, so, so that I can see something of the patient and do something virtually is really not taught or given a kind of focus. I mean, they see benefits, so that's why most of it is kind of within the practice. The whole objective of a dental uh, practice is to get patients into the practice. Um, so but my view is that these kind of things would also result in that, right? This is how people got, they were scared, when the earlier apps, any of the retail apps, any of retail, people got scared that people not come into the shops
Yeah.
uh, to buy. But did that happen? Not really. It's only increased. uh,
Yep.
I mean, there's another channel that has again created revenue, and you're going to only explore more discovery, more knowledge, and then more buy-ins are going to happen. So I'm of the
It's
firm
the
belief
size
that
of the
people
pie grows as well,
exactly,
right? So yeah, it's a business that's
yeah,
only
that's
growing.
but dentists, yeah, once they kind of understand this, um, with the education, it's I don't think it's very difficult to understand. It's fairly straightforward kind of things. It's you have this stuff happening in other industries, right? So
Yep.
uh, they kind of need to see that, and people have asked me, right? um, here I'm speaking too fast. I mean, I guess jumping words because my mind is a lot of people who have told me these kind of things. They say, hey, if you use remote patient monitoring, how are patients going to come into the practice? They actually, we may lose revenue, because they're not going to come into the practice. They may see that, I have no problems. Why do you need to come in for a cleaning? Yeah. Um, so, this may end up being counterproductive. Um, that's why for aligners, it's fairly straightforward. They need it. That's it's a no-brainer. I mean, you can't do without it. But wherever you have a kind of optionality, uh, it's a little bit of fear that uh, will they will they lose out on some of this stuff. But I saw I was in a practice in Florida a few months ago, and actually I was in the reception, and the old man was actually there, and he I was just speaking to him, and he was asking me, what I was doing and all that. So so he said that he's from New Jersey, and his dentist who did the implants for him was in Florida, and he just had like a tooth broken. That rather he thought it was a tooth broken, and he said, yeah, I mean, I don't know what to do, so I traveled all the way uh, for a consult. So I didn't know what he was looking at. So I was telling him that, this is what we do, remote patient care. He said, this is amazing. He told the doctor too, but the doctor still has not implemented it yet. That's how dentists sometimes think. But yeah, he told the dentist too, like, if you just asked me to take a pic, uh, at least you could have planned this better,
Yeah.
because he said that they said that after looking at his thing, they said no, it's a little bit more complex, and he has to stay back for a week, 10 days.
And he could have planned better, or
Exactly,
made
exactly. He said, I've got something happening
change the
in a week.
schedule. Yeah.
So all these conversations are far more complex, and the ability. In fact, he asked me, right, um, do you know any dentist in? And this is really a killer one, right? He asked me, do you know a dentist who can do this for me in New Jersey,
Yeah,
right?
that's what I was thinking. That
I
would
was
be the
thinking,
obvious
bang
question.
on.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's already started to think. And this
Yeah.
dentist in Florida was among the best in the world. And I was thinking, if a patient can ask me this question, do you know other implants? I'm sure that's what he mentioned. It's like an 80-year-old man. He said, um, I'm sure if your tool is being used by uh, implant specialists, do you know anybody who can do this work for me? So that I don't have to fly over. And
So the foot is already outside of the door. So he's already, like,
yeah,
if
I
he's
mean,
talking, he's
exactly.
also exploring. Yeah.
That's the nature of discovery, right? Today is all about discovery. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
yeah. So the discovery mindset of a patient is what every clinician should appreciate, actually. Yeah, if that's just to put it like in a single sentence, like
And I think it's a
we,
convenience as well, right? For them,
yeah.
for that specific use case. And I'll give another example, very simple example. So my parents, right? They did this implant in New
Mhm.
Delhi, and they live in a different city, Dehradun, which is kind of 6 hours away by road. But again, driving in India, as you know, is a headache, right? Just you have to plan, and they to book an appointment. So they did an implant with a dentist who only practices in New Delhi, and it's kind of because you have invested so much in that treatment for both my parents. Like, they think that it's difficult for them to switch away from someone else in a tier 2 cities where no one knows about that style of implants or whatever. And I think that convenience, and it was like, I'll tell you, and it took them 2 weeks to convince that they need to go for a checkup, right? And my wife said, annually you have to go for a checkup, so it's an annual practice. Second thing was that they had to book, they had to like, they got a cab, they had to book a driver, they had to book a hotel, and then it was a 10 minutes visit. Again, it could have been planned better. And then when they were there, the meeting got rescheduled to after 2 days, and it was added stress for them. So that convenience factor, I think that's what is missing. Like, patients want convenience, and if they're not getting convenience, we are already talking to them to find similar dentist in local area, in, like, now so many people are coming. So I think it's a convenience that is missing, and the dentist may not be realizing that they may lose those patients and the practice valuation, or the revenue that they're earning, if they don't
Yeah,
cater to this
exactly.
convenience
I
factor.
mean, uh, I keep talking about this, that you want to get the best patients in, right? Who really need treatment. When you talk about best patients, who really need treatment, um, you can't bucket everyone uh, in the same. That's what is being done today. Um, so you need to understand these flows. You need to understand full mouth implant patient or one who's got multiple implants is most likely to refer other implant patients
Yeah.
because of their affordability and uh, their value for procedures and their environment that they're in. Uh, so you need to keep them super happy, and you need to provide this convenience, and people would be happy to pay for this. It
Yeah.
does not have to be free, uh, because I'm sure like your parents spent a lot of money in getting the cab, uh, visiting and doing all that. So this is a problem. I mean, we need to kind of uh, have a patient first specific approach. Yeah, that's the motto. If you're
That's the
patient
title for
first,
this podcast.
that's the patient first. Yeah, yeah. If you're patient first and then you make your workflows around it, too long it's been the dentist first, all the workflow are around the center piece being the dentist. It's actually, the dentists realize this too, that that's not the right approach, because dentists are also working for uh, the good oral health and betterment of their patients. So we need to keep patients as the center focus and then build workflows around it. Yeah, there's still a lot of work to be done, but I mean, once they get it, and they're able to adopt those aspects from retail, from consumer product. We work with a few consumer brands, oral care brands, and I learn from them every time we have an interaction, because the complete focus is on the consumer, whatever. So when we have conversations and we talk about tech and we talk about what's possible and not possible, their only question is, uh, you know, is it good for my consumer?
Hmm.
If it's good for my consumer, we're doing that. Um, and that's why really, I mean, from Toothlens, other than our aligner monitoring system, which is an innovation from existing products. The rest of the remote monitoring systems, we're primarily working with oral care companies or with insurance benefits, because they look at from a from a patient first uh, approach, um, whereas the clinicians tend to look at it slightly differently. They're getting there, but it's a lot of education.
That's I'll use that as the title for this episode. So I think let's jump into the last two questions. So I think what are the three trends that you're seeing in general in dentistry, kind of maybe related to tech or not? So let's talk about that. What are the three trends that you are observing, that you're seeing around you?
So there's a lot of stuff happening on AI. There's a lot of opportunities with practice management software, radiographic assessment, remote patient monitoring, teledentistry, um, telephone transcripts, those kind of things. So there's analytics. There's a lot of things happening, and I believe there's a lot of hope for disruptions there. Um, so AI is for sure very big. Number two is uh, on the product side, innovations is still happening around newer materials. Um, Especially I see in the aligner space,
Yeah.
there's so much of less plastic materials and polymer materials uh, that are so aligners for me is at the stage that ceramics and zirconia and these type of materials were there maybe about 20 years ago. This is like the inflection point for the aligner. So there's so much of, if you just take the aligner industry, there's amazing stuff happening there, not only in materials but also in terms of just the delivery system, productization in-house, OEMs, so many things happening. So aligner is and it's growing at an amazing um, rate too. So there's a lot of stuff that can happen there. And number three is robotics. So there's a lot of it's still a long way to go, but today you have robots that are able to place implants with no human intervention. So I think we're getting there. Uh, my take is possibly in another 5 years we will have uh, super automated systems that can do dental.
Great. So I think let's go into a last question, and I think that that's something that I'm very much interested in. So going into more of a kind of coming into your personal space, if we can say so. So trying to understand how is a typical day for you, because like every other co-founder or leader of an organization, like we are spending too much, like a lot of time on business, family, health, and all that. And I'm always super interested to learn from others in terms of how they distribute their time, and how does a typical day when you're in India or with your family, how does it look like?
Yeah, so um, I mean, let's not talk about what I used to do earlier. Earlier it used to be like work,
Let's
work,
talk about
work.
now. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So earlier it was like work, 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 right? Um, and then you're not paying attention to fitness, and you're not, so kind of during COVID, I kind of realized that there's no point in doing all that unless you are fit, or you're healthy, right? I mean, you're doing all this, making people other people healthy, but if you're not healthy, then what's the point? So during COVID, like, and I've kind of continued after that, is um, at least I spend a couple of hours in the morning. I go to the gym almost 4 times a week. um, Tend to meditate as a routine, at least for half an hour to 40 minutes. Some level of spiritual stuff happening. And that's all in the beginning of the day. The rest of the day is, yeah, till about 5 6 is work. Most of my time is on reviewing and speaking to prospects and getting a sense of the industry, stuff like that. And then we do reviews twice a day. Um, of course, in the evening, I try to spend as much time with family. Um, Kids are growing up, so I'm very cognizant that once they're gone, then that's it. You've missed out on that time. So try to spend time with family. We still sing together sometimes in the evening. We still play board
That's
games,
nice.
do
Nice.
quizzes, um, uh, spend time with my mom. Uh, we also do short trips, like weekend trips. That's so I invest a lot of time with family and friends, because we need to invest that time. If we don't do that, we will tend to miss out on all those you know the finer aspects of really living life. So yeah, so that's what I do. I try not to get stressed um, too much. It's still a try. It's not always possible, but yeah. And of course, over the last 4 months, 4 to 5 months, like, my travel plans have been really crazy. So I've been traveling like at least 2 weeks in a month. So I try to do that when I'm traveling too. So just as a kind of daily practice. So tends to keep me level-headed, sane, um, and look at failures and success, um, optimally. And yeah, I and this is I also so we have four co-founders. So um, I also work with all of them in a similar approach. Just kind of we work a lot on one another, actually, uh, because that's just like positivity spreads, negativity spreads too. So I'm quite a lot of a people's person. So I believe that mm, people make a business. Everything is all about people. So so we are so that this in that approach we are actually we do internal team meetings, which are also related very much to creating that positive environment within the company. Yeah, so pretty much that's my routine. I try to switch off on weekends, but I'm not very rigid about it. I love what I'm doing, so I'm not. Yeah, I don't work like in silos. Like my time is from like 10 to 5, something like that. Uh, it used to be like people used to ask me like when can we have a call. I used to tell them like whenever you want to have a call. Uh, but today, I mean, it's we have people, and so I try to prioritize sleep because that was really bad. And I'm also a believer now. Of course, in hindsight, after taking a beating, is that if you don't have proper sleep, I mean,
Yeah,
you can be completely messed up. Yeah. Um, so try to kind of balance uh, work and life. It's definitely not easy. You have to prioritize really, really hard. You have to invest really, really hard in whatever we are doing. Um, Especially the life side of things is far more harder than the work side of things.
that's true. No, I think thanks for opening up and thanks for sharing that. And I think that it's the work life integration, and I think it's kind of, we sometimes think of putting this as a sprint, whereas it's a marathon. And the things, and a lot of these things are not predictable. And I think taking care of your health, spending more time with the family, and you're having more time for yourself, and sleeping, I think that's very important. It comes back to the work time. It feeds you in a positive way. It adds nutrients to the day to day, the 9 to 5 that we work on as well. So I think, thanks Dr. Manoj for sharing this. I think it was a really good conversation. And I think I found out while I was questioning, there are so many sub episodes that we can have another one, and talk about, let's say, appointment booking, or patient facing, and those are kind of subcategories that no one talks about. And I think the whole intent of a podcast like this is to create more awareness. It's more like, what are other people thinking, how are we changing the industry? And I think having you as a colleague in this industry, I think it really helps, because we can bounce off what we each other think, and how are we changing the shape of, in a way, in whatever brick by brick level, shape of the industry. So I think, thanks for first of all taking out time. I know we went over time, but thanks for taking out time. Very kind of honest with the answers, being very sharing what you think, and just sharing your mind with everyone who will listen to it today or in the future as well. So Dr. Manoj, thanks for coming here.
Thank you very much, Nipun. I think this was super exciting. I keep telling everybody that we have a lot to share. We just need the right person to bring out stuff. I think, thank you. You have been an amazing host. Uh, and would love to have further interactions. I mean, even some of the stuff like what we talked about, like um, apartment bookings can be easy to look at, but can get pretty complex. So the more education, I believe in education for sure. The more education uh, we provide the community, the better it gets. So yeah, happy to be on your show anytime.
Great, thanks. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. And if you are, entering into the journey of starting your own clear aligner services, or setting up a manufacturing unit, or setting up a chain of clinics offering clear aligners, you need a really good quality software, which should have the case management side of things, which should have a remote monitoring side of things, and also should be white labeled. Smile Genius Dental provides you all in one software to do everything that you will need on those key areas. We provide you with the doctor's portal, which is the dentist facing portal where they can submit the cases and remote monitor the patient's progress. We provide the labs with the lab case management side of things, where they can manage the incoming requests from the doctors, but also have visibility of the operation side from the patient side as well. And then we have provided you with the patient monitoring app because it's all about compliance and engagement at the end. So Smile Genius Dental is the all-in-one platform which is white labeled for your brand to provide you with your consumers with that end-to-end experience to provide more efficiency and productivity to your business without needing you to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars and years of development time to build the software yourself. So call in to our team or book an appointment with us, and we'll be happy to walk you through what Smile Genius is all about. But until next time, stay tuned for the next really good episode of the Digital Dentistry Deep Dive podcast.